Welcome to the Wire to Wire podcast. As always, it's me, your host Yusuf. Now, without further ado, let's just get right to it. Media personality Joy Taylor recently went on former NFL quarterback Cam Newton's podcast, where she took some shots at sports commentator Jason Whitlock. Now, just some background on these two for those that might be wondering what's happening. There was a lawsuit filed at FS1 by a hairstylist working there. I think it was end of last year or early this year. I don't know, the time just all kind of blends together now. But this was a lawsuit that was mainly targeting Skip Bayless. However, there was a portion of the lawsuit and it had mentioned that Joy Taylor had admitted that she had an intimate relationship with Charlie Dixon, who was an executive at Fox Sports 1 at the time. Now, she allegedly told the hairstylist that if her career didn't progress the way that she wanted it to, that she would come out and make false allegations against him, despite the fact that they had a consensual, intimate relationship. Now, Jason Whitlock was covering the story as it was unfolding, and he made some comments about Joy Taylor, specifically about how this is the reason why he chose to stay away from her. And he also mentioned that she had, what was it, peanut butter skin and big cans. Now, recently, FS1 decided to clean house, and they got rid of damn near all of their commentators, including Joy Taylor, Emmanuel Acho, Paul Pierce, and a bunch of other people. Well, those comments that Jason Whitlock had made about Joy Taylor seemed to have made their way to her, and she went on Cam Newton's podcast, and she had this to say about it.
Someone brings up Jason Whitlock, I can't believe he's still with us. I don't think anything works harder than his cholesterol, if I'm being honest.
When he said that rack.
Okay, so before you go on, I've never watched this, okay? I am only aware of this from adjacent conversation. I did not watch a single second of this. I couldn't give a fuck less, and I have not consumed any of it.
Well, I'm going to give you the...
He said something about peanut butter, right?
Yeah, that peanut
What a
butter...
shock. Food.
Yeah. Peanut butter skin.
Okay.
And when I was working with her...
Yeah.
We would always see her rack, and I wanted to stay away from her because I knew what I would have done.
Well, I mean, he's so desirable.
Yeah. But we love Jason.
No, we do. I do not. No, we don't. Who loves Jason? Does God love Jason?
Yeah, I do.
I do not. I do not love Jason. This is you say what you need to say. I do not. I don't love everybody.
So you guys heard what she had to say. Now, I find it interesting that if a man was to comment on another woman's weight, that would be labeled as body shaming. If we live in an equal society, and I believe, or I'm assuming that Joy Taylor herself, she believes that she's equal to men and just as capable as men. So if that is the case, then why is it acceptable for her to comment on his weight? Also, I find it interesting that Cam Newton is putting on his cape for her and is not holding her accountable for what she was accused of allegedly doing. She allegedly had a consensual and intimate relationship with an executive at FS1 to advance her career, and said, allegedly, if she didn't get her way, she was going to weaponize the judicial system against him through false accusations. As a man, hearing something like that should be horrifying. And as a woman, you should be equally horrified by something like that because it completely undermines and dismisses the struggle that our real victims of assault go through. Now, rather than Cam Newton trying to have an honest and genuine open conversation about that and trying to get her to clear it up if it's not true, or at least show her the error of her ways if it is indeed true, which she probably wouldn't admit to. But rather than having an open and honest dialogue, instead, he's choosing to just put on a cape for her. Now, I find it interesting that she can say those kind of comments about his weight in the form of an insult, but if the roles were reversed and there was a guy who said something like that about a woman, right? Let's just say a guy said, oh, look at her weight. She shouldn't be allowed to be on TV. it would not be met with the level of indifference that Joy Taylor's comments were. He would be completely eviscerated and destroyed, probably canceled for making such a statement like that. So how come she can't be held to the same standard that men are held to? Ari Spears is a comedian who, quite frankly, I'm not very fond of, and I don't hold him in high regard as a person or even as a comedian, right? But that's a conversation for another time. But he himself is someone who is overweight. And when he was making comments about Lizzo and her weight, he was met with a very visceral reaction. In fact, before Lizzo decided to take control of her health and lose weight, she was the face of body positivity, and anyone who dared criticize her was met with vitriol. So, this shows the hypocrisy and double standard that we're living in. Now, this part of the episode may get too real for some people, but just bear with me. I'm going to explain everything. Now, Joy Taylor, as you heard it in that clip, said she doesn't find Jason Whitlock to be attractive. And I take her at her word for it, right? Pause. I'm not here to judge any man's looks. She said that's what she believes, and I believe her. Based on the allegations made by that hairstylist who filed the lawsuit, if those allegations were supposedly true, right? And she was willing to do all of those things to advance her career with Charlie Dixon, is it beyond the realm of possibility that she would not be willing to do those things with Jason Whitlock if she could advance her career through him? For context, this is what Charlie Dixon looks like. If those allegations are true, I find it very hard to believe that the source of her doing what she did was because of his looks versus her being able to advance her career. So again, all of this is allegations. But if the allegations were true, then clearly looks isn't really the deciding factor for her. But power, status, and being in a position to achieve her aspirations might be what she prioritizes and might be what she's looking for. So let's just say she thought Jason Whitlock was someone who held the keys to her advancing her career. Again, I ask, is it really beyond the realm of possibility? But instead of having honest conversations like that, it's going to instead be a conversation of pandering and kissing up to her and playing nice. But I will say that even though Joy Taylor got fired from FS1, I do believe that she will land on her feet and get another opportunity elsewhere. I think, although she's not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to sports, she is the archetype of what the establishment media is looking for when they're giving opportunities to certain media personalities. And no, I'm not defending Jason Whitlock. I'm not caping up for the guy or anything. He is a grown man. He can defend himself. He even said some things that I don't agree with. But as someone who's on the outside looking in, I'm observing and calling out the hypocrisy. I would have no problem with her speaking like this, right? If men also had the freedom and latitude to also be able to speak like this about women if they so chose to. But that double standard is there. So I'm going to have to call it out when I see it. Although she made these comments, she will not be met with the same level of vitriol or get held accountable or be reprimanded for making these kind of comments. She was saying it right there in front of Cam Newton. And at no time did he stop her to check her and say, yo, that's not cool. Let's just say it was the other way around. And it was Cam Newton on Joy Taylor's podcast. And Cam Newton decided to talk about another woman's weight. I guarantee that Joy Taylor would have a face of disgust and discomfort. And she would say something to call him out and say, you shouldn't talk about another woman's weight like that. It's inappropriate and it's wrong. But he's not going to hold her to that same standard. And society's not going to hold her to that same standard. And that's the double standard that I'm talking about. It has nothing to do with me defending Jason Whitlock. This is just more so a cultural observation that I'm making. But this is part of an ongoing theme that we see in today's society, that all rules don't apply equally. But that's all I got for you guys today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your people. You can also follow me and the podcast on social media. You can also check out my books. All of the links will be in the description. Until next time.